Right. I think this has moved. Well, today is an interesting topic. It's a powerful topic, actually. It's imagination. And I had the book here. Here's a book I read when I was 19. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Well, I read it. I tried it for about 2 weeks and thought, oh, this is rubbish. It doesn't work. But that's not how it is. And as I look back over the years with this book, I look at some of the chapters that I just glossed over until I found new thought. And one of the chapters, thoughts of things, desire, faith, auto-suggestion, specialised knowledge, organised planning, decision, persistence, the power of the mastermind, the subconscious mind, the brain, the sixth sense, and a very intriguing last chapter, or second last chapter, the 6 ghosts of fear. Well, I've just discovered this book again. It's been wonderful. And one of the chapters is imagination, which is what we're talking about today. Now, Webster's Dictionary says, an image is a mental representation of anything not actually present to the senses. Charles Fillmore, in The Revealing Word, writes, everything that is manifested was first a mental picture and was brought into expression by the forming power of the imagination. Another quote from him, the faculty of our mind that images and forms, the power to shape and form thought. What a power. It's humbling but ennobling to think that we ourselves are the creation of imagination. But whose? We are made in the image and likeness of God, and God is the intelligence behind all we know. And in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, we read, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Then, in verse 3, let there be light. In our studies of the holy books, we take the stories in them metaphysically, not literally. And I quote Thomas Shepard from Unity magazine, who wrote those wonderful Q&As in Unity magazine. Unity is culturally Christian, but spiritually eclectic. So the first 6 days of the Bible describes the process of creation, the elements, vegetation, the animals. And then on the 7th day, he created humankind. I'll get out of trouble that way, I think. Male and female, he created them. And we're also told to take dominion. And here's where the plot thickens. We take dominion over each other, over ourselves, not each other, which some people have a problem with. As God's creation, we are endowed with the same power that imagined and created us. We are its offspring. We have the God seed in us, the Christ seed. We are born perfect, immaculate, and we have a journey to make before we express that perfection to its fullness. And we're destined, while in this human form, to go as far as we possibly can, despite all the distractions which seem to get bigger and bigger every day. but that just makes us stronger. And principle 3 in our Unity teachings: human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Now, our mind is a connecting link of which imagination is a part. It's a connecting link between the formed and the unformed. Whether we believe it or not, and belief is the key word here, we are creating with every thought. And whatever we feel and think and whatever else we are, we're imagining it in our mind. And as Henry Ford, that American industrialist, quoted, if you think you can do a thing, or you think you can't do a thing, you're right either way. So, on our way from Adam consciousness to Christ consciousness, we have involved in us the wisdom and other powers that are available to us. And on our learning way, we often get sidetracked from the glamour of this world, which takes us into many different areas in this garden of earthly delights. Often we indulge in things which were fun at the time, but were detrimental to our soul's journey. We reap the results of our own creations, but if we haven't learned the lessons, we keep repeating them. But with the blessings of Spirit, the law of grace, we can start again. Adam, the letter of the law in the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Scriptures as it's called, and in the New Testament, Jesus, representing Christ consciousness, the spirit of the law. Now we can learn through a lot of things without a teacher's, but eventually we have to enter the most magnificent temple ever. Not Notre Dame, not the Taj Mahal or the Grand Mosque. We go within to our own temple, our own holy Christ self. And inside us is that temple, holy of holies, which will reveal to us all we need to know for where we are at this time on our stage of life's journey. As imagination is one of the powers we inherit, our higher self will use whatever it can to get us through into our conscious mind, what it can. And symbolism is one of the most wonderful ways of doing that. We can imagine angels, the Great White Brotherhood, and other beautiful things like that. Angels, archangels, they're all there. As we evolve, other ways of transmission take place. We use these symbols, and as Charles Fillmore said, symbols are fine, they help create that experience of reverence, but don't mistake the symbol for being the actual thing. Now, there are many artificial ways of stimulating the imagination, but over time, as we have seen, with many creative people, this eventually is its downside. Humankind has given us this ability, this God power, which has been used over eons of time, and look where we've come with it. If we are cold, we seek to be warm. So we discovered the use of fire. We found weapons to protect ourselves from wild animals and aggressive people. Necessity can make us look for solutions to problems real or imagined. And all the wonderful discoveries today were first ideas, conceived in the imagination of someone's mind. Having been involved with music all my life, I've studied the history of music and observed the amazing changes in the types of musical instruments and to the changing styles of musical taste. From primitive man who first heard the wind blowing through the hollow reeds in the swamp, they were terrified. They thought the gods were angry or something was wrong, and so they kept away from the swamp. But one day, one brave person went down to the swamp to see what was going on, and he saw that it was the wind blowing through the reeds. And from that, he picked a couple of reeds, and as he did, the wind changed pitch. I don't know how much later it was that he arranged them into higher and low, but it wasn't for many years until we got what we call the equal temperament system, 1685 with Johann Sebastian Bach. That's all part of my music education. We now have the electronic organ, which creates the sound without the wind. But the main miracle is the big pipe organ. It's a bunch of pipes. And look at the huge size of some of these organs. They're amazing. And I get to hear some of these wonderful pipe organs up here because Ballarat has a festival every year. There's quite a few organs, old pipe organs in some of the churches. One about 10 minutes from me in a place called Snake Valley, which sounds very quaint. And it is, but it's got a most beautiful pipe organ. It's only a small one. And unfortunately, the church was being sold and the neighbours all got together, the country folk got together, and they managed to save that beautiful Anglican church. So we now get to hear the pipe organ still, for years to come, I hope. Albert Einstein wrote, "When I examine myself and my methods of thought, I come to the conclusion that the gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my talent of absorbing positive knowledge." We've heard that we as human beings have evolved to be what we are because we have the power to reason. Our ability to reason has been no small part for the reason we've grown to be what we are. But no less has been our power to imagine. It has given us the power to see what may be more than what we just have at the moment. And that our world may have possibilities and change beyond any which has yet to be disclosed. Reason may direct our courses, but it is imagination that tells us, yet it is more important to be found in us and in our world, which spurs us on to see things that we have yet to bring forth. So, from his book, Wallace Watkins, I have trouble with that name, he's got a book called The Science of Getting Rich, which made me think about this other book, which I got off the shelf, Napoleon Hill. A few people wrote about prosperity then. Charles Fillmore wrote his book on prosperity in around about 1950. Napoleon Hill wrote his book somewhere a little bit after, and Wattles, I don't know when he wrote it, but he was from 1860 to 1911. And he said, what tends to do away with poverty is not the getting of pictures of poverty in your mind or budgeting the picture of wealth, but letting pictures of wealth into the minds of those who need it. So we've got to project outwards this faith and hope and trust our imagination and our creative process. Now, I want to finish up with this book, Think and Grow Rich. Chapter 5, Imagination. Napoleon Hill says, there are two types. One is the synthetic imagination, and through this faculty one may arrange old concepts, ideas or plans into new combinations. This faculty creates nothing. It merely works with the material of experience, education, and observation with which it is fed. It is the faculty used most by the inventor, with the exception of the genius, who always draws upon the creative imagination when they cannot solve their problems through synthetic imagination. I don't want to get too technical with this, but this helped me, so I hope it helps you. And the other one was creative imagination. Through the faculty of creative imagination, the finite mind of man has direct communication with the infinite intelligence. It is the faculty through which hunches and inspirations are received. By this faculty, that all new ideas are handed over to mankind. It is through this faculty that one individual may also tune in or communicate with the subconscious minds of others. So we can see we have a very, very brilliant power in us. And in shaping this energy and this substance with our imagination, it is important to realize that this substance will do as it's asked if clearly, persistently, and with feeling, but it's also a law. It will give us what we want. But we, as co-creators, will take the consequences of our actions. So let's just enjoy our power and use it wisely and well. Now, as I close this talk, I don't know whether this is going to work or not, but I thought I'll do it. We have a couple of slides here where you have to use your imagination. You'll see one picture, but it could be a couple of things. Thanks, Rev. What did you see first? A duck, a rabbit, or both? Now, probably when we have a chat, I'll ask you, but I think I saw a duck first. I may be wrong, but there's a duck. Now I can see the rabbit, and there they are. So you've come across these, have you, in old magazines and things? We used to see these things, and I used to love them. I used to collect a book of them once. And what's the next one, right? Now, what do you see there? Do we see a stand for flowers, or do we see two people looking at each other? And number 3, you see a young lady or an old lady? That one I found the trickiest, but it's there. There are 2 faces in that slide. Wayne, you texted through for the one before, you could see them both. Okay, and so I'm going to finish the talk with this. You couldn't get anything better than this. There he is, Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. Thank you, everybody. That's my talk on that for today. Thank you.